welcome to this week's edition of WCS Sports Connection. I'm your co-host, Jimmy Qualls, and with me as always, my co-host, Tate Mathews. Tate, it's spring. Sports are just about to be wound up. We have WILLCOs, we have a lot to talk about. Spring football about to begin. But let's start on the spring sports side of things. Region 3, 6A baseball action. Coach Chad Kirby and the Summit Spartans wrap up. Right now, they have the best record in Summit history. Wrapped up district play with a district championship.
Yeah, they did, and I can't remember exactly. It's either 16 out of the last 17, 17 out of the last 18 games they've got a victory in. They're really playing well, up to number 5 in the TBCA rankings, which is pretty much the recognized ranking, at least in baseball in the state of Tennessee. So Coach Kirby's got them playing well. They got 3 guys that they got 3 guys that they can start on the mound that are as good as anybody they're going to face just about. So when they've got the bats going with it too, they're tough to beat. I think this is going to be fun to watch. A lot of games to still be played, but I think this could be the year that we get back in the state tournament and make a deep run in it. Be fun to watch.
You mentioned the rankings last week. They were starting at number 10 in the state. They've cut that in half to number 5 in the state. Right now, currently sitting at 19-4, 10-2. Coach Kirby's not here, so we can talk a little bit and talk seriousness without him trying to downplay what's going on.
Right.
The way it's set up, we've got the 3-game series, obviously, in the week. Everybody enjoys that. We enjoy that. The coaches enjoy that to see how those series plays out. But you get rewarded by winning the regular season by getting the bye through the district tournament and getting ready for the region tournament. Right now, Summit, obviously, like I said, has solidified that spot. But up for grabs right now is second place. That coveted second place because the way it's going to play out is they're going to end up playing last place Dixon right now, who only has 1 district win and sitting at 1-14.
Yeah, and don't be mistaken. Coach Kirby's going to want to win that district tournament because that means they'll get to play at home. So, but if they don't, you're right. If they don't finish in the top 2, they move on, but they'll just have to go on the road. They want to be at home, and we talked about it off air earlier. If you like baseball and you're looking for something fun to do, they'll wrap up this Ravenwood series today, and then Monday is at home Summit versus Siegel, who right now is number 3 in the AAA rankings in TBCA. Defeated Farragut earlier in the year in the Warrior Classic. So
who was defending champions.
Defending champions, and they are the gold standard of baseball of the past, 10, 15 years. So I think we're going to try to go, but that'll be a fun one to go to. So they're going to end the season with a top 5 contest between 2 teams. It's going to be fun to watch. But you're right. Second place is very important for these other 3 guys, really, they're still in the hunt, because you start off with Dixon County, a little bit easier road. You got to get in that top 2 to move on and move on to the region, which, as we know and we've talked about with Coach Whipple and Coach Kirby, history shows that whether we're home or away, if you can just make it to the region, usually both of our teams move on.
Well, Summit, the pressure is off. They know that they're automatically going to advance. It's like you said, though, but you hate to miss your stride going through the tournament, win the tournament if at all possible, because you don't want any kind of mental instability going into that postseason run in the region. But sitting right now in second place, if it was played today, but it's not played today, 15-11, 10-8, Centennial right now sitting in a good place. And you get, Summit just played Centennial in a 3-game series and got swept. And you got to understand where is Centennial's mental state right now going into this. Franklin sitting in 3rd, 16-10 overall, 9-6. In 4th, Brentwood 15-10, 7-8 in district play. Independent sitting right now at 5th place, 12-14, 7-8 in district play. 6th place, Ravenwood 15-9, 7-8 in district play, and Dixon obviously in last. So you've got 4 teams with a game in between all of them. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays itself out.
Yeah, and there was one of them that was telling us it's unlikely, but I guess there is a scenario where it could be a 5-way tie for second place. So, but highly unlikely that happens. But once you get into the tournament, you look at how close 2 through 6 is, and then Ravenwood, they've been to the last 2 state tournaments. They're a little bit younger, don't have quite the firepower they've had, but that's a team that knows how to play tournament baseball. They got a coach that knows how to coach tournament baseball, and they know how to win. So I would think that any of those teams, they could get hot and end up getting that second place.
find an interesting stat. Bryce Denton. We've had Bryce on the show before.
Who does he play for?
He plays for the St. Louis Cardinals. Just in case you didn't know that, 66 pick, by the way. He graduated last year from Ravenwood. You were talking about some of that firepower, but since Ravenwood has been in existence, there's been a Denton in the starting lineup. His freshman, the younger brother right now, obviously playing for Ravenwood. I thought that was an interesting stat. Bryce's older brother started back when Ravenwood came to fruition, so it's just interesting to see how that family continues on with their success with that. It'd be interesting to see how his career plays out. Of course, we have a super freshman at Summit right now, Team USA, and all these other accolades from all these kids that we have. Logan Jarvis at Franklin's playing extremely well right now. Corey Bell, pitcher at Brentwood. If you haven't had a chance to see baseball action in WCS Sports Conference, it's really, really top-notch action.
Yeah, it's fun. And like we talked to Coach Whipple about, we have a lot of great settings, great baseball fields in this county, so it's always fun. I didn't play baseball, but I enjoy watching it, and it's a game you can go to, and you don't have to be watching the whole time. You can go get a hot dog. And so anyways, go to the Summit Siegel game, right?
That's
Did
right.
I already plug that once? That's going to be fun.
Basically, that's going to be a showcase, a preview, if you will, of possible state tournament matchups. Farragut obviously will be in that mix again this year. It'll be interesting to see that.
Well, and Coach Craig Revis, he played at middle. Coach Kirby played at middle. And talking to these guys, they say in the non-district games, they usually try to work on stuff. I'll be interested to see. I'm willing to bet competitive juices come out, and they both play this game to win.
That was my next question. Are we going to pitch our ones, or are we going to just kind of play decoy a little bit? How's that going to play out?
I don't know. My guess is ones.
I would say so. It'll be fun to watch. Region 3 6A softball right now in the softball action. Dixon sitting on top of the district right now. Dixon obviously being a powerhouse in softball for many years now. Has not lost a district game, but in second place right now, Brentwood 15-13, 5-3.
Erica Powell's done a great job. Obviously, she was at Beach. She sat out for a year or two before she took the Brentwood job and did a great job with the Beach program, which is one of the top softball programs in the state. And they were a little bit down, but you can already tell the results of her being there and leading this program only in 1 year. So, Dixon by far and away clearly the leader in this district in softball. Brooklyn Lee, the pitcher they've got, and baseball we got to have 4, 5, 6 arms. Softball you can have one, and she's won the state championship as a freshman. Came up a little bit short last year, so as long as she's there, it's going to be really tough to beat Dixon. But what Coach Powell's done in her first year is, I think, what was expected because she's really good at what she does, but it's just scratching the surface. She will have Brentwood softball back where it needs to be.
Well, tied with them right now in district play, not overall, is Ravenwood 12-11, but 5-3 in district play, sitting in that tied for second, third spot. Ravenwood right now above 500. We have 3 teams above 500. Can Ravenwood make some noise on the softball side to possibly try to get into that 2 slot?
I think so. They played a close game with them earlier in the year with Brentwood, so I think they can. I think really Brentwood-Ravenwood is a coin flip between those two, but they can, once again, trying to get the best seeding you can, but the great thing is if you do come up short and end up third, you still have the district tournament to get one of the top 2 slots.
Sitting in 4th place right now, Independence is at 500, 13-13, 4-3 overall. In 5th place, Summit 9-11, 2-4. Franklin sitting in 6th right now, 2-13, 1-5, and sitting in 7th is Centennial 3-19, 0-8. Now, one thing about Centennial is just now kind of hitting a hot streak. I mean, they've won a couple games here in the last 2 weeks, whereas they had not won a game in the previous several weeks. Kaylin Hannon, UT signee. It's strange to see her because she's very petite, but she has got some unbelievable speed and a little bit of power behind her bat.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about softball is you can have a lot of power in a small package, right? So, but congratulations to her, and you're right. They're playing. They're getting better. That's what you can take away from that. They're getting better as the season goes on. I would think that they're still a year or two away from making noise in the tournament, but you never know.
That's why they play the games.
That's why they play the game.
You never know. It's just like basketball. You got 2 seasons. You got your regular season. You got your postseason. You got to go in there and play. You've got to go in there and win. If they make a run and get one of those top 2 spots, that would be a story for sure. But best of luck to Centennial. Best of luck to all of our WCS Sports Conference softball teams. Soccer right now, Franklin wrapped up the district championship themselves for the regular season, finishing the season 6-0-2 and 4-0-2 in district play.
Yeah, Mike Burgoyne, 3rd district. He's the head soccer coach of the Rebels. 3rd district championship in 4 years. Obviously, a couple years ago, back-to-back state champions. This team's a little bit different, but they're playing great defense, a very balanced team. So anytime, just like volleyball, anytime you make it out of this district, 11 AAA and boys soccer, that means you, as the first place team, that means you've got a pretty good team. Sitting there, you don't play very many games in soccer. They've only played 8 games as the year's gone on. No losses, 2 of them are ties. One of them was against Centennial. They had a chance to win that with a penalty kick at the end of the game. Came up short. That one ended up being a 3-3 tie. Then turned around and beat Independence last week for the district championship. So they're really, really playing well right now. Brentwood High also is playing well. They've got some very quality wins under their belt too. So it would be nice if we could get 2 out of the district. Kind of the same thing as baseball. History shows if we get out of the district, usually both of our teams move on from the region, and then anything can happen in the sectional game. But we got a chance to get 2 teams in the state tournament.
Well, hopefully we won't have the same luck we had on the girls' side. They played each other. Everybody was, extremely talented, kind of beat up on each other, and we got in the district tournament, got a couple of injuries that really cost our girls' teams from advancing into the state tournament. So hopefully everybody stays healthy, we have competitive games, and we get 2 top quality teams in there that can make some noise and hopefully make a deep run and possibly come up with the 6A state championship. Brentwood sitting in second, like you mentioned, 6-2-3, 2-1-1 in district play. Independence 8-2-1. They're also 2-1-1 in district play. Ravenwood is sitting in 4th at 4-2-2, 2-1-1. That's a 3-way tie right there for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And then Centennial sitting in 5th at 1-3-2. Summit 3-4-1 overall, and Dixon coming in last there. So it's going to be an interesting tournament for them. You see a common thread and a common theme happening amongst all of our spring sports. We have top quality coaches, we have top quality athletes, programs, and these tournaments are going to be something else.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be fun, and like we said, just like the baseball, Centennial played Franklin to a 3-3 tie the other day, and they're sitting in 5th. So 2 through 6, very, very tight.
Well, on another note, track and field, it's not a whole lot to talk about. I mean, they do have their meets going on right now. We have a lot of personal records. We have a lot of school records that are falling right now. I know that Taylor Vroon up at Brentwood broke I believe it's the 800 record. There's been several records that have been falling this year. There's a long list, and we'll try to get those to you at a later date. But
it's probably 1,600 or 3,200.
Excuse me.
I think those are
You're right.
2.
He runs the mile, 2 mile. And it's just, there's so many kids there. It'd be interesting to see if we top. Last year we had 14 individual state championship winners in track and field. It'd be interesting to see if we can top that 14, as well as we had a couple runner-up last year. It'd be interesting to see on the boys and girls side which teams advance to the state championships and see if they can get enough points to win the track and field competition, which is a whole different ball of wax because it really depends upon how each of the individuals do to earn those points to win the championships on the AAA level. Tennis side, we have Ravenwood, who's a dynasty right now.
Man.
Be interesting to see. Now, interesting note is that Independence 1-2 beat Ravenwood's 1-2 in the last match that they went against each other, which is very interesting because right now, if I'm not mistaken, the Ravenwood 1-2s are ranked extremely high in the rankings. So that just goes to tell you that the quality of teams, the quality of individuals that we have across the board in the WCS Sports Conference is almost like you just have to reach into a hat and pull out a name.
Yeah, I mean, if that's happening, that speaks volumes about where the independent tennis programs come from because the Ravenwood 1 and 2s, they don't get beat much anywhere, out of conference, out of state, doesn't matter. So, that just goes to show how balanced this is getting. We got a lot of great athletes in this town.
We have Isaiah Polk at Page on the AA level that was had an opportunity to win the championship last year. I believe he was runner-up. He is back. Obviously, number one, has run through his schedule, looking really good, getting the bye there in the early in the tennis championships coming up, so it'd be interesting to see how he does on the AA level. So with that being said, we're going to great segue into this year's WILLCOs. It is that time of the year. Golden tickets were delivered last week. The way this process goes is that we have each of the athletic directors and coaches from each of the schools. We have 22 sanctioned sports where the names and nominees of these kids, we want the top of the cream of the top of athletes there are in each of the sports.
The best of the best.
Thank you. And then we vote upon a winner out of each of those 3 finalists. This year, Vanderbilt, Bone and Joint, Jackson Life are our title sponsors for this spectacular event. You attended with me, obviously, last year. We were not in the Dumb and Dumber tuxedos, but we were looking pretty dapper. Anyways, on the red carpet, the kids were dropped off by Franklin Trolley at the Franklin Theater and walked the red carpet. Just a really cool event for these kids.
It was, and I know you're a we guy, not an I guy, but like I told you last year, I got to give you credit. I thought it was going to be nice. It exceeded my expectations. You knocked it out of the park. I think everybody had a fun time, and it's been fun to watch. A year later, now people realize what it's really about, wanting to be a part of it. But it was a great event. It'll be a great event this year, and I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
Go back to the old adage: if you build it, they will come. Hopefully,
right?
Hopefully. And it went from, we had 320 guests last year all the way up to 1,000 this year. We're over 2 facilities. We're going to be in the factory as well because of the teams of the year, the new category that we have that we'll talk about in just a second who those nominees are. And the spillover and the coaches that needed to be in the building that didn't get a chance to be in the building this year will have an opportunity to be in the building to cheer on their athlete that is representing from their teams. It's just it couldn't be done without the help of community involvement. You being part of that community. I mean, I couldn't do it without Mathews Team Sports. We have Copy Solutions on hand to help us out. Mayor Builders, John Mayer, my goodness, gave a $5,000 scholarship last year. Peter at Springtree is up for going to help us with Media Student of the Year this year, which is a new category. We thought both of us, I think it's imperative with the kids that help us with game day and any other thing that happens with sports media. Those kids need to be helpful as well. We even have this year, Tate, the Ravenwood Fashion design class providing 4 models, so you don't have to see my ugly face walk out and hand those awards out. They've got 4 people that are going into that field that are specifically going to college for those reasons. They're going to hand the awards and kind of usher people on and off the stage. So we're trying to get as many people and kids involved as possible. Of course, Delic, Matt Harris, and the Courage Award, this year's Courage Award winner, is going to be phenomenal. I can't wait to see the finished product of that.
I tell you the thing that was most impressive about him last year was there were a lot of great speakers there last year. He might have taken the cake, man. Obviously, he's a chiropractor and a doctor and very smart in that field, but he was great. His speech was great, or whatever it was.
For the Courage Award.
The Courage Award, yeah. I mean, when he was presenting it,
right,
he was good.
We got Hope Hines MCing once again. Buffalo Wild Wings this year is going to help us with the reception. They're going to feed everybody at the factory post-show. So WCTV is going to be there filming them. I mean, it's going to be a tremendous night. I hope, fingers crossed, everything goes well. But with that being said, you're talking about how it's grown. It's funny because now that we released the list to the media, we got all the media outlets calling, hey, I want the list. How'd they get the list? And how come we didn't get the list? And then I've got parents calling, how'd they get invited? My kid didn't get invited. But that's a good problem to have. You want those people in that building. That's what we built this for, is to say, look, if you want to be the top of the top, that's who gets in this building. So, it's fun. So let's look at the list right now. In girls cross country, we have Addie Coggins. He's a return WILLCO recipient from last year. From Independence, Haley Hendry, the state runner-up this year in Brentwood, and Taylor Limperville of Summit. Boys cross country,
Brody Hasty of Brentwood, Jonathan Helton of Centennial, and Colin Lamb.
2 repeats from last year. Colin Lamb is the runner-up in AA.
Right.
Brody Hasty is the champion in AAA and ranked number 7 in the country right now. Jonathan Helton, great young man at Centennial, has broken many Centennial records. But you're looking, this is the type of quality kid we have in there.
Well, and you just look at Brentwood High. The only kid in the Southeast just about that can beat Taylor Vroom is Brody Hasty. I mean, so if he's not there, Taylor Vroom's up for it.
And it's unfortunate because Taylor probably should be in there. But as athletic directors, they did make the notion that we're going to have one from each school for for fair shakes.
Sure.
But you're exactly right. There's probably, you could almost take the top 3 runners from Brentwood and be in there. But it comes down to the votes and who gets them, and those are our finalists in girls golf. Ann Catherine Blackburn, a returnee from last year's WILLCO's Ravenwood. Mackenzie McGrath, she was in the state tournament. Sydney Smith from Franklin, and Annie Paris, who is the low medalist this year from WCS Sports Conference.
Boys golf, Chase Kephart of Ravenwood, Trevor Johnson of Brentwood, Bobby Stevens of Fairview.
Trevor Johnson going to be a Louisville Cardinal next year, going, competed with the Brentwood men's golf team. Now, speaking of that, they are state champions.
That's right.
Probably could take their top 3 golfers, but Trevor Johnson gets the nod on that. Amber Jones of Page in our volleyball group, Garrett Joyner, Brianna Carlton. This might be one of our stronger groups. Garrett Joyner right now, if I'm not mistaken, ETSU signee. Amber Clark has several offers on the table, and Brianna Carlton obviously was the one of the setters for the Franklin team that made the state tournament.
Well, and then you get into football.
This is a whole different category in itself.
Yeah, well, Tyrell Dodson of Centennial, Chris Rowland of Ravenwood, Nate Johnson of Independence, and then Michael Magoji from Page. I think, if there was a Name of the Year award, Michael, there's not even 3. Michael wins the award. But, you got a Texas A&M guy. Chris Rowland's going to TSU. But, as far as on a high school football field, is he explosive anyway? Then obviously Nate going to the University of Michigan. So that one in
Magochi, I think, is going to Murray.
Right.
State.
And then Michael going to Murray. So very, very tough category right there.
Very stout category. On girls soccer side, Erica Schreiber from Fairview, Julie Garsh from Independence, and Jesse Harvey from Franklin. That kind of pretty much rounds up our fall sports. What we'll do, we'll roll these names out in the next couple of shows all the way up to WILLCO's. We did our fall sports today. We'll do winter next week, and we'll finish up with our WILLCO watch. Now, let's get to some important things that I know that you want to talk about. Important time of the year for football. Spring football is set to begin. We've got some teams that are already participating this week, and it may be next week before everybody rolls out. But in particular, Centennial football under the new regime of Matthew Kreisky.
Yeah, and they've got a week under their belt, a few days already this week. So they were the first one of the Williamson County schools to go spring practice, and it's going to be fun. One, they were 12-2 last year. Both of those losses to who was that team? Yeah, Independence, the only undefeated team in the state. So Coach Kreisky been a lot of competitive places in his first year, and he's been pleased with the first week of spring practice. And so going to be a little bit different look on offense. They're going to be kind of more of a shotgun with 2 backs. If you've seen Blackman play, B.J. Oliver is the new offense coordinator for Coach Kreisky and offensive line coach. Very similar to that. You'll see him with a tight end, 2 wide receivers. You might see him with 3 wide receivers, but most of the time you're going to see him. Well, they were in the shotgun last year, but you're going to see 2 backs next to him. Really what they're trying to do is get the ball running downhill. They're going to be a physical run game team if they can. So got to replace a quarterback. Obviously, Pisacani was the quarterback last year. Trey Stewart has had some good work the first 5, 6, 7 days. He's a junior. And then Centurion DeRoe, who many of us remember, came over, played quarterback in the Ravenwood game, and that came out of nowhere. What a great game he had. So Centurion's working at quarterback a little bit. He will not be a full-time quarterback. We'll see him a wide receiver. But there will be some packages for him. So that's going to be fun to watch.
Well, he sure looks the part. I mean, if you really look at, you're talking 6'2", 6'3", maybe even 6'4", good-looking receiver out there, and be a threat, obviously, on the outside. Now, at quarterback, Pisacani obviously had a great career, and his brother, named
Peyton.
Thank you. And, it's interesting dynamic between those two. But like you said, it's going to be hard to go out and get used to at first, seeing this total different package that they have, total different setup, and different coaches on the sidelines.
Yeah, that's right. And, and then you look at the running backs. One, you got to replace Tyrell Dodson, who it's going to be weird not seeing number 25 back there. But then also Mondu Sawyer, who we talked about it earlier in the year. He was banged up at the beginning of the year, and as the year went on, it became obvious he was a very quality running back. But Coach Kreisky's happy. John Carter has really kind of led the way. He was a backup last year, obviously, to those two. No fault in that. But he's had a really good spring. Zion Lee, a senior, he's going to count on heavily. Zion has not been able to be out there much because he's a big part of the track and field program. So, but then you get to the offensive line. They return one starter out of 5, but he's a pretty good one. Eli Katina, he's going to lead the way, and I say that he's really good.
Right.
But, so they got to find, I would think, in coaching, the toughest thing you would have to do in football is finding 4 new offensive linemen. But that's why you get started early on in the spring. And Eli's there. They're going to count on him heavily to lead the way from a leadership position, and then also helping Coach Oliver mold those other 4.
Speaking of offensive line, let's get off Centennial for just a moment. Look at our college recruiting watch right now. You have Max Ray at Franklin. The final domino fell this past week. Alabama has offered Max Ray, so that pretty much puts every SEC team on the table. USC on top of that was in the mix at one time. I know he's got an early commitment to Georgia. I think, and you probably will agree, that will never stand the test of time.
There's no way to tell.
I mean, even though he fell in love with going down there, he had not at that point in time had any conversation with Nick Saban and his crew, and I don't think that he had been down there. Maybe he went down there for the junior day. I can't remember. But now that you come as an official recruit and they put the dog and pony show, I can just see probably in the cards, like everybody else in the country, that when they bring you in, they don't let too many leave without any kind of a commitment and signing them.
Oh, well, and let's put this into perspective. Alex Bars, great offensive lineman from Montgomery Bell Academy a few years ago, playing at Notre Dame now. He had offers from everywhere in the country, but he didn't have an offer from the University of Alabama. Because, not that he can't play there, they got a lot of linemen down there. They very, very rarely come out of state and offer a lineman. And so they're offering Max as a junior. That's a big, I don't know if that's where he'll end up. I hope he doesn't. But that is a big time, offer right there.
Could be our first 5-star lineman for sure. Obviously. He's right now blowing up the travel circuit, if you will, what we like to call the travel circuit, the summer circuit, the off-season circuit where they have the workouts and all those things, and that's where a lot of that happens. Patrick Lighton at Ravenwood right now getting a lot of attention. Keep him on your watch right now. Matter of fact, University of Tennessee knocking on that door.
Right, and what both these guys are is they're tall, they have long arms. You can't coach that. I mean, you're either tall and have long arms or you're not, right? And that's what they're looking for.
Athletic.
But once they know, and we're doing a great job with all the football coaches here in our county do a great job in the strength and conditioning department. But these kids are they're gonna grow some more, and they know that when they get them up there and get them in their training table and in their weight room.
Oh man!
I mean,
Max Ray right now, he's coming in at 6'6", 6'7".
He's a puppy.
240 pounds. I mean, you put weight on him, get some muscle on him.
That's right.
Keep on his, getting his footwork right, man. His kid, the sky's a limit for them. So it'd be interesting. But we'll continue with our WILLCO watch next week. We'll also continue with our spring football watch as we'll go to another destination. Centennial this week. Real quick before we go off there, who do they end up with their scrimmages?
Oh, it's going to be great. Friday, Centennial. Let's say 5:45, host Riverdale. Matt Kreisky's little brother, his twin brother, Will Kreisky's the head coach of Riverdale. The Kreisky Bowl.
Kreisky Bowl, that'd be great. Well, thank you for joining us for WCS Sports Connection. We'll see you next week.
Rain Again by Gail Bunton Haddock. It's green again now that the rain has come back. I've been out in it. My feet are wet and getting cold, but no matter. The land was parched, the leaves brittle dry with fire and ever-present threat. With the rain has come a hush. It has settled on the far hills and across the fields We were ready for the relief of this rain. Sometimes slow and soft, sometimes hard and slanting on a rush of wind, and then a quietness that heals the brutality of a too long drought.